Lately, there's been a lot of negativity towards AI, and for good reason. People hear about the hundreds of billions of dollars, trillions of dollars at this point being poured into AI, the people getting insanely wealthy from it, the massive amounts of water and electricity data centers consume, the concerns about what that all is doing to the environment, et cetera, et cetera. And after all of this spending and all of those resources, what does the average person actually get out of it? For most people, AI is a glorified search engine. It's a chatbot. And that feels pretty underwhelming when you compare it to some of the promises we've heard from people at the top of the AI industry. People like Dario Amodei and Sam Altman have talked about AI potentially transforming medicine, accelerating scientific discovery, and even curing cancer. But that future isn't here yet. Whether or not we're actually on the path toward that kind of future, I'm not sure, but I think it's worth taking a look at what AI has already accomplished. Because no, AI has not cured cancer, but underneath all the hype, spending, and controversy, there are some genuinely incredible examples of AI already making people's lives better. So here are a few ways AI has helped to make people happier and better. Let's jump into it. So let's start with the probably best known example of AI actually contributing to science and to the world, AlphaFold. So proteins are just tiny molecular machines that perform an enormous number of jobs inside your body. But to understand what it actually does and design a drug that interacts with it, scientists often need to know this three-dimensional structure. The problem is that figuring out those structures experimentally can be really, really difficult. In some cases, researchers spend months or years even trying to determine the structure of a single protein, and it's been a major problem for decades, until Google DeepMind created AlphaFold. Instead of determining every protein structure experimentally, AlphaFold uses AI to predict a protein's 3D structure based largely on its amino acid sequence. And the scale of what happened next was pretty crazy. In 2022, DeepMind and the European Molecular Biology Laboratory released predictions for more than 200 million protein structures on this website right here, completely open database. This made every researcher in the world able, right then and there, to have access to these new protein structures created, essentially covering almost every cataloged protein known to science at the time. And now researchers can access this database for free. So today, AlphaFold has been used by researchers working on everything from malaria and neglected tropical diseases to drug discovery and understanding antibiotic resistance. Now, it hasn't cured cancer, of course, but its predictions don't eliminate the need for laboratory experiments. But it has taken a scientific problem that requires enormous amounts of time and resources, and in many cases, given researchers a highly useful prediction in minutes. And that's exactly the kind of thing I mean when AI is helping people. One other example is with finding missing people and responding to disasters. If you think about what happens immediately after, like an earthquake, a hurricane, a flood, wildfires, you're going to have a bunch of damaged buildings, roads that are completely inaccessible, communications are knocked out, and maybe hundreds or thousands of people who need help. And one of the biggest problems is just figuring out where to send those rescuers first. So today, satellites and drones help enormously by providing imagery immediately after the disaster, but then somebody's got to go and look at it. And if you're following this video, you probably know the answer is going to be AI is looking at that video. Computer vision models nowadays can analyze satellite and drone imagery and figure things out like these collapsed buildings, flooded neighborhoods, the blocked roads, and anything else that might need immediate attention. So instead of having humans manually inspect every single image, AI can essentially act as a first pass, flagging those areas, and then a human can go in, human in the loop, right, to make sure that everything is going to be fixed. So it really expedites the speed of which humans can respond to natural disasters. And of course, with natural disasters, time is everything. So it's a big help there as well. Another great example is with accessibility. For both the blind and deaf, we have many different things that have been created. Here's a recent example just come out on August 12th by Google DeepMind once again, in which they are allowing sign language to be used on people's personal devices. So in their example here, we can see how the technology, the AI, can automatically translate from this person's sign language into text. This is going to help deaf people signing into their iPhone without needing to. This is going to help deaf people in a bunch of different ways. It's going to help deaf people integrate into society much easier and use their sign language whenever they possibly can. It's just one of the many ways that AI is going to make the world a lot more accessible for everyone, not just for the few, if everything goes well, at least. In the same vein as accessibility for the deaf, it's also helping the blind by visually. It's also helping the blind and visually impaired people understand the world around them. Here's one example of that, an app called Be My Eyes, where a blind person can point their phone's camera at something and connect with a volunteer who describes what they're looking at. And now it's using AI to do the same thing. That's been around for years, and it's going to become much cheaper and much easier for all blind people. It now has its own feature actually called Be My AI, which allows someone to take a picture and have AI describe what's in front of them almost instantly. And just think, if you're blind, how useful that would be in everyday life. You just point your camera at the inside of your fridge and you ask what's there. You take a picture out of a restaurant menu and have it read and describe it to you. You can ask what color a shirt is, read a sign, identify a product at a grocery store, or get a detailed description of a photograph. There's a million different things that this application can do. And it's all made possible or much more accessible by AI. So we all know the importance of social mobility. We want our kids to be able to do better than we did. And we want the poor to be able to move their way up the ranks to a higher social class, be able to strike it rich, essentially. That's the American dream. And the foundation for being able to do that is education, is you need to have the skills and the education in order to get to that point. Well, this is where AI can come in and be a little bit of an equalizer for all. It gives basically anyone access to a personal tutor. So before, and obviously many people have probably already experienced this, you've probably asked ChatGPT a ton of questions already, and an AI tutor will sit there with you for as long as you want, for as many questions as you have, and there's no time limit like there would be with a regular tutor. You can tell it, I don't understand it, explain it to me like I'm 10. If you don't understand it still, you can explain it to you like I'm 5. You can get quizzes, you can ask it again and again and again, you can ask it about different angles, you can ask it for more explanation. And it's not a classroom of 30 people, it's just this one AI with you specifically. I personally have used this a ton for my education. It's taught me so much. I know that there's a lot of people out there that say like, oh, AI is going to be terrible for people's brains because you're offloading your intelligence. And I think that there's a little bit of truth to that could happen. But I think the more powerful effect is going to be for people who are wanting to learn and are putting in the effort to actually learn. And they're not just asking AI for the answer to a problem, but they're asking AI for the understanding of how to answer a problem, which I think AI is very, very good at. So it's not going to replace teachers. It's not going to replace the school system, but it is a very big supplement for that. And if all things go to plan, it should also help with social and economic mobility in that front. I think that there's something within humanity that we naturally are a little bit afraid of or don't really like, people that are different from us. Like we are naturally so biologically wired to love ourselves and to love those that are most close to us, so our immediate family members. And the further out of that circle you go, the less and less you feel that, and the more and more distrust occurs. So when you're talking about other countries with other languages, with people that look different than you, I think it can be much harder to build a strong connection with them. And I think the number one thing there is communication, is you want to be able to speak to this other person and have it be not through a translator, but have it just be natural speech, one-on-one together. And AI isn't quite there yet to be able to completely translate your speech in real time with all the same meaning, but it has made a big stride in that direction. It is slowly destroying the language barrier. So think about what that means at a global scale. A doctor can now communicate with a patient who speaks another language. A refugee can navigate government services in a country they've just arrived in. A student can access educational material that wasn't even written in their native language. Two people on the opposite sides of the planet can communicate despite sharing essentially zero vocabulary. And in a world where I think the world leaders try constantly to pit people versus people, country versus country, ethnicity versus ethnicity, if everybody speaks the same language or is able to communicate freely with each other without that language barrier, I think it's going to bring humanity as a whole much closer together. And it's a pretty incredible thing for AI to try to accomplish, and hopefully it will eventually do that. So this one might be my favorite example on the whole list. AI is helping us understand whales. So I talked earlier about how we are being able to communicate with each other, with other people that speak different languages on the other side of the planet, but we may even be able to communicate with another species entirely. Now, we haven't translated whale language entirely. We're not just having conversations with these whales, but we are on the way. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Here is a website called CT, and this is Project CT with a bunch of researchers that have collected enormous data sets of the sounds that whales make and used machine learning techniques, aka AI, to analyze their structure. In 2024, researchers reported evidence of what they described as a kind of phonetic alphabet in sperm whale communication. They found that whales can systematically change things like rhythm, tempo, and timing of their clicks. And combinations of those features appear to create a much larger communication system than scientists previously understood. So again, unfortunately, we're nowhere close to having a whale to English translator, although fingers crossed, maybe we'll get there one day. But we are essentially, for the first time, we have tools capable of analyzing animal communication at the scale and complexity necessary to start asking a pretty incredible question. What if they're saying much more than we realize? So AI isn't curing cancer, but it is at least helping us with real, genuine drugs for antibiotic-resistant bacteria. The AI is helping us to discover new drugs. So developing a drug is an enormous search problem. There's a ridiculous number of possible molecules, and kind of like AlphaFold, no human can look through it one by one and just try again and again, but AI can. So this is one of the coolest things that's happened with antibiotics. We have nearly 5 million deaths linked to antibiotic resistance globally every year, and new ways are needed to combat this resistant bacterial strains. So the researchers at Stanford Medicine and McMaster University took this problem and dubbed a new model, SynthMol, for creating structures and chemical recipes for 6 novel drugs aimed at killing resistant strains of different bacteria. I'm sure that you've heard before about how antibiotics lose their potency over the time because bacteria becomes resistant to them. Antibiotics has been one of the greatest man-made inventions in history, saves millions and millions of lives. And if we lost access to antibiotics, or if they somehow became less useful, we would be in serious trouble as a civilization. So yeah, I think it's a pretty good thing that you have AI for this. So, has AI cured cancer? No. No. And I think it's completely fair to be skeptical, especially when you consider the hundreds of billions of dollars being spent on this technology, the enormous amounts of energy and resources going into it, and just how much hype in general has been surrounding AI for years now. But I think it's too easy to become an AI hater, to swing too far in that direction. It's helping scientists understand proteins that could take years to study experimentally. It's giving blind people access to visual information. It's helping rescuers analyze massive amounts of information during disaster. It's helping us understand how another species communicates. And it's helping scientists search for entirely new medicines. None of these things prove that AI is going to change the world as dramatically as people like Sam Altman or Dario Amodei predict. But I also don't think AI needs to cure cancer tomorrow for this technology to be somewhat worthwhile. Maybe the real impact of AI isn't going to be one giant breakthrough where suddenly everything changes. Maybe it's just a bunch of smaller breakthroughs, scientists working faster, people gaining access to things they couldn't access before, and problems that were once too complicated or expensive becoming just a little bit easier to solve. We're spending an unimaginable amount of money building this technology. Whether that investment ultimately proves to be worth it is still an open question. But when somebody says, what has AI actually done for us? Well, it turns out we do have some pretty good answers.